Hello friends, I am the Anti-Terrorist. Thank you for all of your messages of support, your emails, and for staying part of the conversation. Now, if you've been studying since my last video, you will know that the court system is a private business enterprise. It is little to do with justice and everything to do with money. And once you realize that, and you go into these venues, the illusion crumbles somewhat, and you can see it for what it is. It's a game. That's why it's called a court. I need to add a caveat here. I am not a lawyer. I don't have a bar card. I'm not a solicitor. I'm not a member of the Law Society. I'm just offering you a little information as to how I might do things and how other people have done things under these circumstances. In other words, I'm not offering legal advice here, so you Law Society chaps can wind your neck back in. Now, for the sake of expediency, I'm going to assume that you know what a person is, that you know what a Mr. is, and that you know what a defendant is. They're all legal fictions. And I'm going to also assume that you have followed the Freeman process to some degree and that you know how to stand your ground and claim your rights. I'm also going to assume that you know how to put certain paperwork into the court before you go there, because obviously you're going to be making a special visitation or a special appearance. You can find all of that information on the net. So considering YouTube's time constraints, let's crack straight on with it, shall we? Let's presume that you are being called into court for a parking violation or a speeding ticket or some other triviality that has no victim whatsoever but is only purely there to generate revenue for the investors. One thing I want you to understand here before we get into the whole court thing is that as a creditor, if you have been following this education to the same degree that some of us have, you will understand that you are the sponsor of the credit that keeps this country running. You are a creditor, and a creditor behaves in a certain way. A creditor does not argue, he does not fight, he does not dispute. He pays. Now, I'm not talking about some fiat currency that has no value outside of what the banksters say. I'm talking about paying with your signature, which has more value than any note you've got in your pocket. And once you understand how to do those procedures, you can pay quite happily. And the object is to stay in honor. A creditor stays in honor. So despite that, I need to give you some tools. And so in the words of Kenny Rogers, sometimes you gotta fight when you're a man. Sometimes you have to fight when you're a man. And you need tools to do that, because they are tricky little monkeys, and they like to turn you upside down and shake the money out of your pockets and squeeze a little blood out at the same time. So you want to go in there fully kitted up for a potential fight, but with a view to settling and closing amicably and honorably. I hope that's understood. I'm not advocating fighting in court. I'm advocating that you go to a knife fight with a knife, but have a gun tucked in the back of your trousers, just in case. Now, contrary to popular belief, the game doesn't start when you get in the courtroom. It starts as soon as you arrive in the building, because there is a request for your name as you register for the case at hand. So the clerk might approach you and say, "Are you Mr. Anti-Terrorist?" I might say, "Well, I am called," let's see, what can the anti-terrorist's first name be? Neville. Oh, Tristram. Bartholomew. Timothy Anti-Terrorist. Timothy Anti-Terrorist. Does that sound badass enough for you? So I am called Timothy, and I am here as a third-party intervener. I am here as the authorized representative for that particular person, and I intend to assist the court in the settlement and closure of this account. Now, when you call me later, would you be so kind as to refer to me as Timothy? Thank you very much. I'll be sitting down over there. Give me a call when you're ready. And then I would walk away. Having established that you are there, in some capacity or other, you are likely to be approached by the solicitor for the claimant or the plaintiff as well, shortly after registering your appearance there at the court. And they will be trying to play the name game with you as well. Now, really speaking, you should politely and courteously just dismiss them and tell them that you will talk to them in chambers or in court. You have no desire to contract with them at all, and any resolution that's going to come out of today's meeting will be done in the court, and certainly not face-to-face in some sort of private contract with them at that particular time. So be polite, be courteous, just tell them you'll talk to them in chambers or in court, and then politely turn around and walk away if you have to. Do not engage them in any way, shape or form. Now you'll find that when you approach the court as a sovereign or as a creditor, and you filed your paperwork properly, you filed an amicus curiae perhaps, or you filed a declaration of political status beforehand, the court are aware you're coming in and you're making a special visitation. The court will no doubt try to leave you till last. You'll be sitting there waiting for hours in some cases. I know from my own experience, whilst dealing with my own cases, or being involved in other people's cases, you can be sitting there for 2 or 3 hours at a time, because they want you to be dealt with out of sight, so that no one else can see that you know what you're talking about, that you know your rights, and you know it's all a silly game. So you may have to wait if you've done your process properly. But once you do, the clerk will call you. Timothy, for the parking ticket case, are you here? Yes, I am here to deal with that matter. And so the clerk will lead you to the door of the courtroom or to the door of the private chambers. They will knock and they will open the door.
Roll up, spot the pea under the shell, win yourself a nice £100. You already said you want to have a little go and spot the pea? There you go, which one's it under? Really moving down really fast now, nice and slowly for you, so keep an eye on the pea. The more you look, the less you see. Now, sir, which shell is the pea under? Which shell is the pea under? No, there you go, thank you for your money, say goodbye. Oh, yes, parking ticket, is it? Wonderful, wonderful. Let's bring in the next victim. Defendant, please, yes. What are you looking at? You never seen a bloke in a dress and a wig before? You need to get yourself down to King's Cross Station. Plenty of them down there.
Honestly, the things I have to do to get my point across. Now, of course, the judge isn't going to look like that. He's not going to have a wig on. Certainly not in any county court. You may see it every now and then during a big case in the High Court or the Supreme Court, but this is purely to make the distinction. Having done that, they will try to usher you in. You will stop at the door and you will ask the following question. Sir, I never say Your Honour. It makes me feel like an ant. I don't mind saying sir, because it's quite polite. I might say, Sir, are we on the record? And the judge will probably say, yes, the recorder is on, and so on and so forth, and he'll be quite dismissive, or maybe he might be quite lovely, you never know. These people are human beings after all, and they have lives and wives and children and dogs that pee in the house. And so their day could go just as well or as bad as yours could, and you need to take that into account. The judge is going to ask for your name. He's going to try the whole name game trick with you. He will be saying, are you Mr. Anti-Terrorist, or Mr. Anti-Terrorist, sit down, Mr. Anti-Terrorist this, Mr. Anti-Terrorist that, and I might have a few responses to that, because they are going to do it a lot. It's the little game, it's the trying to establish jurisdiction game. And if you submit to that jurisdiction, you are toast. As soon as you give in to the first instance where he tries to trap you with that little trick, you are done. There's a very well-known story amongst the creditor-sovereign community in which a sovereign went into court and asked the question, Sir, do you have a claim against me? To the judge. And the judge says, no, I do not. And he asked the same question of the barrister or the lawyer. And of course the barrister or the lawyer had to say no too. And he was chewing a toothpick while he was saying this. And of course he said, well, as no one else has a claim on me here, for the record, I am done here, my business is done here, and I'm leaving. And he turned around and started to walk out. And the judge, in response to this, called out, take that toothpick out of your mouth. And the chap turned around, removed the toothpick from his mouth to reply, and as soon as he did, 2 or 3 bailiffs pounced on him and took him down to a cell. He had followed an order and was therefore under the jurisdiction of the court. It's really that simple, and they'll do it with you all the time.